Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Nick. Actually, usually I have you up here with me, but I guess as a guest, you can still be up here with
Oh,
me.
yeah, that's true.
I forgot about putting you down and into or putting you into the studio. Hi, everybody. Hey, this is a transition today for Mind Over Matter. This is Leslie Flowers. I'm your host, and this is Mind Over Matter Mondays, and we're moving to a guest format. And the guest is an expert in one way or another of mastering mindset, right? They've done the work or they teach the work. And so today we have Nicole Angia-Galindo, but allow me to say first, welcome to the show. The comments are open and we want to know where you're calling from. And this is a very special episode because we're going to take a look at my wonderful co-host who came in when things were kind of up in the air. And good morning. Look who's here. Lay is here already. We're so glad you're here. So we've changed the format to 1 hour and we're going to go 45 minutes. And I'll be asking Nick some really fun questions about how she's been able to manage a lot of juggling a lot of things and keep her life balanced and achieve them. What in the world is she thinking? And look who else is here. We have Adrian. Good morning, Adrian. We're so glad you're here in support and thanking Nick as our special guest today. People will be coming in slowly but surely. And so I want you to know about my co host, Nick, and how she does things that most people cannot do effectively or consistently. And so we want to try to figure out what is she doing that we can all do. Hi, Elizabeth. And here is Christy. Good morning, Christy, calling in from Florida. Christy tells me that it's really hot and humid in Florida, I would imagine. Um, and Mariana, who's calling from Belgrade. So, the first thing I want to do is to tell you that Nick and I, when we met, we became kind of sisters. So let's start this off with a little special tribute to our friendship and our relationship. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Freckle face.
Leslie. You're on mute.
So could you not hear it? Any of the music? Really? That's interesting because I said it. Well, anyway, that's a song about sisters, and I tested it and it seemed to work okay, but evidently not. So that is a song about two sisters from White Christmas a long time ago. So
Thank you.
and Freckleface is in there, and it made me think of
Oh,
Charles. Right? Isn't that funny? And
it's
look
the
who else.
thought that counts. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. And I went to a fair amount of trouble to try to get that working. So it just shows you how good I am at this stuff. So anyway, it's hit or miss. And I'm so grateful to you. Good morning, Lisa. So glad you're here. Christy's calling in, as I said, from Florida. And we'll have several people joining us. So this 45 minutes is for me to interview Nick and ask her a lot of questions about what she is doing. So, hey, Jenny, I hope I got you as you came in. So good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. And on LinkedIn, if you will click on the three dots, you can view the event details and share the event to anyone else that you think might be interested in hearing a little bit about Nick. Now, you hear about her all the time. So, my guest is Nicole Angia-Galindo, and Nicole lives in New York. And in a way, some people think that she, by happenstance, sort of landed in the middle of becoming a publisher. But there's a lot more behind the story about her being a publisher because most of us look at the end result and go, wow, that is so awesome that you've done all these things. And she has 8 books this year. She'll tell you about this. Began at working full time and doing publishing on the side. So effectively, Nicole was working 60 to 80 hours a week, right? Plus driving to 10 hours a week to and from work. So it's just amazing to me. And the reason I say that she is a mindset master is because all of the things that we talked about over the last few weeks, which is managing your mind and what you're thinking, there's a list of things that we suggest that you can do. And I say that Nicole does almost all of them. So, welcome, Nick. How are you this morning?
I am great. Up with the birds. Lots to do today. And thank you for bringing me on as a guest. I guess usually I co-host, and
Yes,
this is a different type of conversation. So I do appreciate that.
good.
Looking forward to sharing what I can.
Excellent, excellent. Now, let me show the audience a couple of things. What we're going to do is for the first 45 minutes, I will absolutely interview and ask Nicole questions that I've been really curious about. And I bet because she's a rare bird, I promise you, I've been teaching mindset for 17 years, and there are very few people that can do what she's done. And however, the common denominator among people who are consistent achievers is the same, right? They all do the same thing, but unfortunately, there aren't many who can do it. And so I really want to get inside your head to find out what are you thinking when all these things come up. So let me show this slide. I want to show you our presentation today. Okay, so you're going to meet my guest, and she is the founder of Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing. And you see what today is absolutely. Now, one of the concepts I want you to look at, Nicole, is this particular graphic. You know, we learn not only through listening, but also visually. Now, I created this graphic um, in 2014, and it has several implications, but life is like a circus. It can be very enjoyable, don't you think? And it seems like as we walk the tightrope of life, we're juggling. And that's part of the excitement, right? Now, because we're human beings and we're not perfect, there will come times when we fall off the line, off the tightrope. It's what happens there that I'm so interested in. So you'll notice that beneath the juggler are six people holding a net. And so it's very important for us to find out today who holds your net, Nicole. And we'll get into that in just a second. Now, as you learn and you grow in being able to mind over matter, matter being your fears, matter being what other people say that really has nothing to do with you. So that's mind over matter. It's outside conditions and circumstances, other people who are giving you their 2 cents worth or their $200 worth, but also your internal fears, of which we have six. They don't all occur simultaneously, and the top two are the fear of criticism or judgment or the fear of poverty. But there's plenty of, there are four other ones too. And depending on what comes up for you as an opportunity, one of those fears will be triggered. That's when you fall off the net. But the amount of learning you do thickens the weave and has you bounce right back up and continue. So the time between when you're triggered and you're afraid, or you're wondering, should I really do this? And you fall and then you bounce back up. The more you practice this, the quicker you're back up. But the important thing is who's holding your net. These are people that are looking for you to be great. And if only one of them is inauthentic and you haven't chosen them carefully, or maybe you were supposed to have a failure there, the whole net drops, and so do you. So the question is it really six? Is it two? Is it three? Because the two people can hold a net, three people can. Right now we have six. But it's vital that you continue learning so that you bounce back up quicker. That is back into the joy of life, the positive side of everything, which I know Nick to be, right? And move along with the joy of life. So we're going to look at who's holding your net. Now, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, these were the 10 steps Nicole and I shared with you to diminish fear, particularly of criticism, and to build faith in our ability and deservability. And in this, I want you to know that as far as I can see, Nicole has hit all 10 out of the park. And these questions are based on that. What is her one big purpose and goal? Does she visualize it? Does she practice the things that allow her to complete achievement and achieve things without being stopped by an inner conversation or a fear of criticism? Can she be disciplined for 90 days? Can you? Do you rest every week? We know she does. What about nutrition? Nicole does something very special with nutrition that she's gotten to do. And then the affirmations and the reframes, the continuous learning, and then time management of high value activities. I dare say that that's a really important one. And then, of course, the support system or accountability partner. And that's who's holding your net, is the people that you trust. So I'm going to be asking you questions based on these. Are you ready, my dear? So let's start off with what is your goal? If you had to pick one thing, let's say between now and the end of the year or even into next year, what is your purpose when you created? What do you want the outcome to be for Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing, please?
That's a big one. um, so I could go up to the end of this year and early next year, but that's just all on the road toward a long term goal, which is I want the company to get to the point that it's sustainable with my hands in it because I don't want to hand over the reins per se because this is a big part of my joy. But I want to be able to have it sustainable so I can actually pursue some of my personal goals, which often got pushed to the side because, I worked or I was raising my son, who's now grown and not with me anymore. And I feel this will allow me the time to do that, like, to achieve some of those goals. You're on mute.
Learn to not mute myself, right? In deference to you, I mute myself and then I forget. Okay. So no matter how good you are at this, nobody's perfect. So what are a couple of those things? So let's assume that at the end of this year or next year, whatever you decide, that you're able to step back, you have a whole crew running the company or you sell it. What are a couple of the things, do you know what they are that you would do if you had that sustainable business the way you want, right? Where you could walk away for 2 weeks and go on a vacation and you wouldn't worry about it. What are a couple of those things? Tell us what you might be doing and let us in on your dreams for the future, please.
So one of those things I'm going to be doing this summer, even though I would not be at the end of the year, and I really would like to bring my elder nephew to spend a couple of weeks with me. Um, I just I wasn't in a place to do that before. I am now. I would have the time to spend with him. Um, you know, taking him out and just getting a chance to bond. I only get to see him once, maybe twice a year, and she's my only sister and my baby sister, and she has a 1 year old as well. So I know that the elder one would be out of school for summer break, and yeah, I want to be able to help out.
So so what I'm hearing is that one of the things, you have a small family
Very,
right here where you are. And so what I'm hearing is that that consistent running of your business wherever you are in this, that you want to become a bigger part of their lives again, like you were when you were little, maybe.
yes, I do. I mean, that's the personal. Um, I wouldn't say the next is a business, but it is personal. And that's another reason. I have a dream to speak on the stage of NAMI one day. And yeah, it's a big dream, but I'm going to keep working toward it. And the business being sustainable will allow me to, do things like maybe get training for public speaking, uh, be able to afford to go wherever it's happening at the time that I would like to do it.
I love it. I love it. Now that's awesome. Now we've got several people that are coming in. Hey, Tracy, so glad you're here. We have Stanley Green, Power Thinking Corporation, and I will be inviting Stanley on stage here. He has an amazing program. And part of the reason I'm doing this is, you guys have heard from me, right? You know a lot of my stuff, but what I've discovered is that there's a lot of mindset masters who have a slightly different system, but it'll resonate with you. It complements with what I'm doing. So there's really nothing new. It's for me, it's all about being able to control the one thing that we have control over, what we think. Wouldn't you agree? That
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. I love that you feel this pull to be with your sister who's in Canada and has want to be with your nephews and um, yeah. So tell us a little bit about how it is you went from corporate or working a full time job and you were doing bookkeeping and customer service 40 hours a week and driving an hour almost each way. And at the same time, last year, what I found extraordinary about you was that you were publishing three anthologies at the same time in Q4 2024, and you were working a full time job every day. In fact, sometimes you wouldn't feel well and you'd still go in. So I know you as a person who is there no matter what. How did that happen that you moved from working two full time jobs effectively to one full time job in February of this year? What happened? What made you give up that permanency and take a risk in poverty, the poverty mindset, like, oh my God, I don't have a paycheck, right? I mean, that's pretty normal for most people. I have to earn it myself now. What happened? What is it that had you take that leap of faith, Nick, and leave your full-time job before you really launched the business officially? Please.
Um, so I was working toward being able to start a company and be my own boss, but it's not something that I necessarily thought would happen as soon as it did. I was still working toward it. I think with many times when you make such a life changing decision, some people might say it's a trigger, some people might say you just knew it was the time. So there was a trigger, not a major trigger actually. I think had I not been on the precipice of this, that trigger would have come and gone. Um, but there was something that triggered me at work, and I decided based on that I really didn't need to um, feel that way anymore, even though it was temporary, and I knew that where it was coming from was probably out of frustration on the part of who it was started by. Um, but that was my trigger, and I made the decision within minutes of seeing the email. Um, and I went home, and the very next morning I walked in and I handed in my resignation. I'm
So
very decisive, so
so it sounds like the straw that broke the camel's back, which was either the fear of criticism you've had it just one time too many about perhaps being unkind, or it was a dream and your intuition said, now's the time. Can you tell what it was? Where you did the trigger make you angry enough to make the choice? Or was it your intuition and connection with the universe? And you may not know the answer to this, but I appreciate your, helping us understand, because something had you step out, because it's not the first time it happened, right? That you had considered this. So,
correct.
what is it that had you step out on faith? Was it really the trigger that you just had it up to here, or was that longing, that intuition, the thing that actually made you say, "Well, this is it"?
Now that's a hard question because it's a bit of both, but I would say it was the former. That trigger was like stepping on a landmine. And I'm like, okay, no. I've been picking through this landmine,
Yep.
and as I go, I've been sowing seeds. And so behind me, that landmine in the desert has now turned into a beautiful forest. And I felt like, okay, um, if I'm going to keep sowing seeds and turn things into a forest, then those landmines that shouldn't be planted are being planted still. And that was a problem for me because I didn't want to have to pick my way through them when I felt that I didn't deserve to. So um, it was a trigger, and it was a trigger of me and my self worth and feeling that I deserved more, even if that comes across as cocky to someone else. Um, or entitled, but I quite frankly felt that I deserved more and I was in a position to give myself more.
Mhm.
So, and in my heart of hearts, I knew that I had what it took to really bring it all at this point in time and, go and see where the outcome, where this landed.
Okay, so really what I'm hearing is that it was both in a way, right? That you were really teed up for this, all this work that you've done, gaining notoriety and having a lot of clients and learning the publishing business so that when you left to start your own publishing company, you also were ready, and that is deemed by the universe. So it's not the first time that you might have been criticized or treated unkindly. I don't know all the details, but there comes a point when you've done enough work on the faith side that your intuition starts to become louder than the fear. And I think
Definitely.
that's what happened. So tell me how you feel about your beliefs about your ability and deservability today.
Um, Ability wise, I feel great. Deservability wise, not too long ago, that was a bit of a struggle. But I would say where I sit today, I am much closer to fully embracing that deservability. And when I say that about the abilities, I feel great. I don't mean that I know how to do everything, not at all.
Right, right.
Um, just I know that I am capable of um, attaining the ability to achieve what I want to achieve.
And could you say that that because particularly I would say the last 6 months of last year, particularly Q4, where you did something, you achieved it. You did something, you achieved it. People said this wasn't a good idea. I told you, I said, why would you do three books at once? Having been a publisher myself, knowing what it takes, right? It's what I'd like to know now is what happens now that you're in the business. What's going on right now? As far as I understand, you now have pulled in clients because you, like you said, you had planted a lot of seeds, and you also learned the process, and you also no longer had the 40-hour a week job. So what is different? What happened differently when you moved to your home office and now it was your day to determine, right? What you were going to do. You didn't have to drive. You had the puppy at home. Your husband was coming home for dinner. What changed for you? What was life like when you first moved from going to the office every day and then acclimating to setting up your own office at home? I'd love to hear that, and I think we all would.
Goodness, it was a 360. I had worked from home before when I broke my
Mm.
knee for a few months, but I was on a clock. So I, started at 8, I ended at 4. I had a space, which is the space I sit in now. My place is small, so there aren't very many spaces inside that I could set this up. And I don't require much anyway, my laptop, my microphone, um, and a notepad because I always write. So, I kept, in the beginning, I set the alarm clock because I said, nope, 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 nope. If you're going to do this, you have to be disciplined and you have to work the same schedule that you worked with your job. You're going to set the alarm, you're going to start work at 8, you're going to finish work at 4, you're going to put in the 40 hours, and you're still going to work weekends. You're not going to go from one extreme to the next. And so I did that for the first, I want to say, couple
Month.
of months.
Yeah.
Now I don't do it anymore. I don't set an alarm clock. I naturally wake up early, and I've been waking up earlier than I ever have before. Um, and we'll address that probably a while later. But I had to adapt to being home by myself so
Was
much.
that whether that adaptation was it all roses, or what? Tell us about
Oh
maybe the
no.
challenges that you faced. Transitioning from a life that was pretty well governed, by another at another place. What? So here you are at home. You've started the new business. Clients are coming on slowly, right? That's when you stepped in to help me, right? You had the time, right? But I want to hear about what the difficulties or the challenges were and what you thought to yourself and how you worked out of that. So tell us what the challenges were coming
Mhm.
home, and then how you worked yourself out of it.
I felt lonely
Mm,
right off the bat.
mm,
I was just not used to being by myself as much. How did I combat it? I talk to you. I have I have friends online, so
mhm,
I talked to people, and then there were people that knew that this transition through their own experience would be difficult for me, and they reached out to make sure that I was okay. I leaned heavily on my husband and my son, and my husband, knowing this, would actually say to me, "Baby, I'm so sorry I have to work late tonight," because he knew I looked forward to him coming home. I also pushed myself to spend more time outdoors. Between
mm,
working jobs, I was rarely outside, and so I pushed myself in between to go take a walk around the yard, to focus on puppy a little more. And then the focus really did come to him because he grew very ill, and he needed, I would say, half of my attention that was meant to be invested in the business was not with vet visits 3 times a week and taking care of him. So that took a lot out of me emotionally, but I wonder if in some ways the distraction of it was good for me because I still felt as if I were accomplishing something. When you first start a business, um, the it could feel like you're stuck in mud or you're paddling and not going anywhere. Um, a lot had to happen. I wasn't really marketing my services before I left my job.
mm, mm.
Once I left my job and this became, the income stream, I had to start shifting my focus on marketing, on networking more. I didn't have much time to network before. I didn't do very many coffee chats before at all. I still don't do that many. If people reach out, I do. Rarely do I instigate because my schedule's all over the place. But those are definitely some of the challenges I faced. And I was also very nervous about, oh goodness, I hope nothing serious happens that I'm going to need dollars because I knew that I was ready and set aside to face 6 months at bare minimum of making sure that, the bills, I was helping to pay the bills. So, you know, my mind was always at a point where what happens at the 3 month mark if I haven't brought any money in?
So
You know,
that's the fear of poverty, and I'm very interested because that fear really tugs at your heart when you're taking a big risk like this. And I'm reminding what our dear Leah, our financial Leah Garcia, our financial person, says. And you had 6 months put aside. Ideally, she says 2 years. So I would imagine that your fear of poverty would diminish significantly if you had that much saved, but you had about 6 months. So it wasn't enough then to push you off and make you go back to work, like full time for someone else, right?
no, I knew if it came down to it and I had to go work part time, I would. I would not give up on this dream. But I also knew that uh, I was prepared to cut expenses. I certainly cut out some of the things that I wanted and kept only the basics of what I needed. Um, I also thought to myself that, look, having 2 years put away is huge. I don't even think a lot of people have 6 months put away. And
That's
that's
right.
the truth of it.
That's correct.
Um, and it's not a matter of comparison, it's a matter of Am I willing to wait another 6 months to have a year of money put away? Am I willing to wait 2 more years?
Mhm.
Um, I also, you know, reminded myself I didn't wake up with a dream a month ago and decide I'm going to do this. Or even 6 months ago, I started to work. I started this work 2 years ago, right? And even that was a challenge, I have to say, mentally, because I was like, you're going to just start a business? Are you nuts? But am I really just starting a business? On paper, with an LLC, maybe. But I had already started a business. I had already made income. I mean, in I think the first year from the time I published 2023, no, not even then, because I started before that as the gifted bipolar writer, and I was doing other work, right? Helping people build their network and graphics and such like that. So in the 2 years, I think I had already made 15,000, right? So, and
Mhm.
that's around my full time job, just me putting
Mhm.
in my time. So, already told me that I have the ability to do this. So, my thought process was, what happens if I could actually give this 100% and not 50% because I was working full time?
Mhm. Mhm.
What
Mhm.
could I achieve for myself that I'm out there achieving for someone else? And that really helped me to overcome my fear, and like you said, the wanting to quite simply um, be with my family more. I sacrificed a lot. They sacrificed a lot in those 2 years because I was coming home. I wasn't cooking anywhere near as much, and my husband loves home cooked food. So I was, and that's something I enjoy doing and enjoy doing as a wife, which I get to do all the time now.
Yes.
Um, but I would be ordering out. We would be eating sandwiches. At 11 o'clock, he's going, "Are you coming to bed? Are you coming to bed? It's 11 o'clock." Well, he was worried about me. He said, "Babe, you are pushing too hard." He's like, "You cannot come to bed at midnight like this, night after night after night." And then he's like, "You stop being out there mowing the lawn, doing things, physical activity." He's like, "You need to start doing some exercise. You just sit there and sit there and sit there from morning to night on the weekends." And it got to a point where I said to my husband, shit, I get to work on Monday and I feel like I never left work. But it's not that I never left work. It's that there was no downtime on the weekends.
So, what's different now in terms of time management? What is it? Okay, so the first question I want to ask you about this is when you were first starting your business, did you find yourself compromising with the new clients or the new paying clients because of the want and requirement of generating income? Did you put up with more than you normally would? And have you made a transition where you actually will not take on a client? And what is that transition? What has happened with you and your values?
Hmm. So while I still had the job, I compromised, yes, but I didn't feel it as a compromise.
Mm.
I felt it quite simply as I was doing what made me happy, and um, I could give freely because I didn't have to think about it being income that I counted on, right? When you go into entrepreneurship, things shift, they shift. So now this is your sole income, and it's very tricky. You don't want to lose your why and your passion because that is what's going to keep you going. Um, I feel like a lot of people climb and then they lose that and it becomes less about that. And I honestly feel that's when people feel. Um, Now, when I started the business, because I was nervous for the income, I definitely lessened my value. But I believe that I also went into this not really understanding my value because
Mm,
I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I don't know why I wasn't looking at the fact that you already published 5 books, lady. Stop telling, in the beginning, I kept saying I'm a new publisher, I'm a new company, I'm a new LLC, but I built my value before I got to this point. My prices to contribute a chapter to my anthologies went up consistently, book after book after book.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and so I was already building my value. Why is it when I became a business owner now, I diminished that value in my mind? Again, that, like you say, comes back to the fear of poverty, right? Also comes to deservability. Okay, so people saw all my love and passion, and oh, now is she only doing it for the money, right? Because she needs the money. So I did, and I am really glad that with my very first experience, I completely changed that. And yes, I have a very few friends that are very, very close to me, right? I have a small circle of people, and then I have a medium, and I have a large, which is my community. And they all offer support on different levels.
So
And
who is holding your net now? You have several layers of people that you listen to. So you have a small group. What happens if you have too many people holding your net? Too many cooks spoil the broth. How do you, when you do share, I assume you have more than one or two people, right?
yeah,
So how do you determine what you're going to do if you have a lot of information from people you respect? And is that better to have like 6 or 8 people that are giving you guidance, or one or two? What have you found?
honestly, I do not surround myself or have anybody I want to say within my community that I don't respect. If I don't respect you, you're not there, period. And then, so my close knit would be you, Aaron Gibson, Jason Forehand, my husband, my son, and my sister. I have six. That's it. I have
Eh,
6 people holding my net. They're the ones that
there they are,
I
right?
can. Excuse me. It happened to be six.
Bless you.
Um, these are the people that I do not have to talk to every day. That I do not have to share everything with. They're in tune to me, and they know where my energy is at. Um, they can have an overview of what's happening, but they are very intuitive to know what could be affecting me. They know me personally. So that's definitely my support system. And there are people,
Mhm.
they are people that I let it in, fully absorb what's being shared, um, really sit and marinate with it because I know that these are the people that can tell me you're a bitch, Nick. And I would be okay. I need to sit down and think about this. It wouldn't even phase me for a minute. I would not feel anything at them saying that. I would not feel hurt, criticized, angry. I would feel nothing except that I need to go sit down and really think about this. Well, not a bitch, but maybe one about a situation, right? I behave that way about a situation. But yes, and then I have my medium circle of people that, you know, I fully support them. They fully support me. There's no question there. Um, but I won't necessarily share every single aspect of my life with.
Yeah.
So,
And what I found out is that I'm very fortunate to be one of those people. I can't convince you to do it my way. I've learned really quickly that
try.
as a net holder, I offer information, but I'm not attached anymore. At first I was, well, why didn't you do what I said? Well, because Nick makes her own mind up. So now we offer, and then she chooses.
Yeah.
And I think that that is really special. And you're also talking about the evolution of your self-confidence and your values, your value of yourself. So when you were working full time for another company, the thing that pushed you and triggered you was a trigger for criticism or judgment. But notice that that voice got quieter once you left, but another voice of fear stepped up, which was, hey, you don't have enough clients yet to meet, right, your monthly income from your business. So it moves from from the fear of criticism. Now you're with your own voice and you're worried about money. But I think that you're having the 6 months is so important. I was going to tell everybody, if you'd like to come up on stage, we're ending at 11. The link is in the details and also in the comments if you have a question or an insight that you'd like to share with Nick. Now, I want to know where you're from, and when you're cooking, I get pictures of you cooking. I want to know what your favorite things to cook for your husband are and for your son, and do they connect to where you're from and the way you grew up? Tell us a little bit about your background and your favorite dishes and what you love to cook now, right in the middle of being a publisher, please.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago are two separate islands, Trinidad being the larger, but it is one nation. Um, I love curry and roti, period.
Curry and what did you say?
Roti, roti is like, I don't want to say like naan, but it's like how there is naan or how Mexicans have tortillas. This is flour
Okay,
based.
got it, got it. Yeah.
And I love curry, period. And I do cook it. I don't cook it as well as my mom or as other, places I've eaten it at. My husband, he's Mexican, 100%. And he he's really come to embrace Trinidadian food. Just as I've embraced Mexican food, I've learned to cook Mexican food as well. But I wouldn't say I have a specific thing that I cook. I cook everything. I don't cook Mexican as much as you probably should. And so the other day I did make I made salsa verde. I grilled nopales, which is cactus. Um, and yeah, I did tacos and he walked in. He was so happy. I had cumbia playing when he walked in. That's the national music from Mexico. Well, from the town that he's in, was in. Um, and yeah, he likes his meat, so he loves pork chops. I grill pork chops a lot. Um, and of late, I've just been cooking a lot more veg. I actually discovered I love kale, which I don't think I've really ate before. He brought it home and I cooked it. And I do love cooking, so I don't recipe cook. I cook by taste. So I'm never worried about cooking something I've never cooked before. I generally will figure it out. I think that's all the questions you asked me. Yeah, I'm Trinidadian, but people do get confused because um, I'm actually half Cantonese Chinese because my dad was born in China, and the other side, my mom's side, Portuguese, Scottish, and Indian.
And the way we met, thank you for sharing that. It's very clear that you're embracing cooking is part of the nutrition and the life balance you get to
Yeah.
enjoy now. There is one other thing though that I want to bring up, and come up on stage if anybody would like to ask questions or just continue enjoying and listening. So I believe that the universe is love and is always looking out for us. The universe being God, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, Allah, doesn't matter. It's the one universal force. That's what I believe of love. That's omnipresent, that wants us to live a life of wealth, health, and happiness. I believe in faith, even though I don't know yet how something works, because I've seen the results enough to know that something magical is going on. So the first magic is when I met Nick, my name was Leslie Thomas. So is her mother's initial. That was my maiden name. So right there, that was a blast. But that's I believe that that brought us together, and the connection that I'm probably your mom's age, or maybe not as old as she would be, but yet you're a sister to me. Here's the thing I wanted to bring up. In this whole process of moving out of a full time job because you just about had it up to here, not that it wasn't a great place to work, you loved it, but it was
I
time.
love it.
It was time. However, I'm going to bring this up because I don't have to know exactly why, but your little puppy, Pokey, was seriously ill and dying over the first quarter of this year. And had you been at your full time job, you wouldn't have been able to hold him and be with him and take him to the doctors. And this is where I believe that God has a way of making sure we're where we belong. What do you think about that?
I honestly believe in faith, and I think that I could take that back even further. I think in the moments of my life where God felt I wasn't listening enough, He's like, okay, well, I'm just going to put you down. And I feel like He's done that. What do I mean? I mean, when I was running on a high back in COVID and, you know, work sent everybody home, I went to work for my husband's family's restaurant, and people were just doing takeout at that point. And I learned Spanish, and then the restaurant reopened, and everything was great. And I was working my full time job, working that job. That was much worse. Don't even ask. I literally came home at 11 at night from the restaurant, but I was able to save a lot of money. We were able to save a lot of money. I'm sorry. So we that's how we bought the house. But I was ignoring the things that I was supposed to be taking care of, like my bipolar medication, and I fell into a terrible STD for 2 months. God was like, okay, you're not doing the right thing. You know what you're supposed to be doing. Well, I came back from there. I quit drinking. And within a year, we bought our house. My husband gained a citizenship. Like everything changed with that. Um, a huge step forward in our lives. And then he did it again. End of 2022, 5 months into my job, I fall and I break my left knee in 4 places doing what? Christmas decorating. You know, I had gotten a position as operations manager, my first ever. I was so excited, and I felt, you know, like, and honestly, maybe I was getting too cocky with it. I don't know. And bam, there I went down on my knee. That's what threw me into LinkedIn. That's what started this entire journey. Um, who knew that falling on my knee and putting out one post, which I carried on for a whole year on said day every single week, would take me all the way to owning a company? I didn't. And yes, I met you, and Thomas is also my mother's maiden name. Um, I immediately clicked with that, and I do have a crazy amount of faith. Yes, because I have seen things happen before. But one of the things I did is like a month in, and I had this conversation with my husband. About a month in, I said, look, two things. One of us would have had to take a furlough from our job to be with our puppy. There was no way in heck that we were going to leave him in the care of anybody else and or leave him home. 16 years. Um, up a couple of nights ago, I was crying. So uh, that's one thing. And then about a month in, I said to my husband, listen, because he said, you're getting stressed out. I said, I am. I said, I'm not doing this. You know what? This is not the reason I left my job. I did not leave my job to be more stressed out. And I reminded myself, good God, you are in the first month. You have 6 months put away. What are you worried about? You start worrying about that in like the fifth month, the fourth month. And I went right back to where I was, which was not needing it and just doing it because I loved it. And that I feel is where the magic lays. I can give as much as I give because I love what I do so much, because I get back so much. And
Yes.
I was not doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm not doing it for the wrong reasons. I don't mean the wrong reasons according to anyone else or God or anything like that, but the reason I started doing this. That
Hmm.
thing that makes me want to get up in the morning and do it again and again and again until I get it right. Um, and
Yes,
now
and right changes, doesn't it? It gets better and better.
it changes all the time.
Yeah.
I've hit certain goals consistently, and now I've raised the bar. Now I have more goals with the publishing company.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to take them on. I'm not
How
afraid
do
to
you
take on
determine,
any goal.
in the interest of time here, how do you determine which goal or which project, let's just say, or task for you to reach your purpose, how do you determine which ones to do? Because you can't do them all. And then what happens, Nick, if you fail at one? What do you do? Like, how do you determine, well, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do this, because you can't do everything? How do you decide that? And by the way, everybody, the conversation that she's talking about in her head is her higher side, her conscious awareness, asking herself questions. Why is this happening? Which distinguishes that from her fears. So it's her logical, strategic, well exercised thought process that had her able to stop and ask those questions. So, how do you determine? And we've only got a couple of minutes, and I want to really promote what's coming up for you tomorrow. But tell us briefly, how do you determine which project to take on and when?
You know, the longer I've been doing this, and actually, since I left my job, it's 5 months on July 6th. Um, I become more comfortable. I trust myself more. Um, I take for example, this morning I have a lot to do today with launch tomorrow, right? One of the things I need to do is get out 6 pieces of promotional material, 16 pieces of promotional material to my 16 co-authors. But I also have the show. Um, there's a show at 4. Um, I'm going back and forth now because my page is live for the merch for the business. So there's a lot going on today. And I started working backwards. I said, okay, Nick, what is the latest time you can have this done? What's the latest time you can have this done? What's the latest time you can have this done?
Mhm,
And I started there,
mhm,
right? So that's just within the space of a day. Now, when I look at the fact that I'm launching uh, 2 in September, one at the, no, oh my goodness, I've already jumped that far. I'm launching one July 31st, 2 in September, one at the end of October, and one in the middle of end of November, right? I can only concentrate on one thing at once. However, I work on multiple projects at once because I have to. So they're all in different stages of the
mhm,
process,
mhm,
right? And deadlines determine that a lot. But
mhm,
what also determines it for me more on a daily is um, my energy levels, my mental and emotional state, and I use these as well to decide which clients I will take on it, or if I'm even taking on any more clients. I find that having not just time management, but managing myself based on my capabilities and understanding myself
mhm.
is what allows me to commit 100%. I will not commit to something if I cannot commit 100%. And God forbid something life changing happens and I can't, I would. immediately say that I can't. I try to find somebody to fill that spot because I have already made an obligation, right? But I think accepting that I do have limits, working within those limits, allows me to produce what I produce so well, right? I do not want to stretch myself to the point that I take on so much that I don't hit the goals that I want to hit for myself and for my clients. They do not deserve that, and I do not deserve a watered down version of myself when I have worked so damn hard to bring myself to the point that I am.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. Particularly, I want to thank you, Nick, for sharing with our friends and those who are watching later that this can be done. But what I especially love is how you acknowledge the fears and how, through mind over matter, that is practicing thinking strategically, asking yourselves these questions, that actually moves you more toward faith in your ability and deservability rather than more toward the fear. And so I'm so grateful for you for the last 6 months. And tomorrow is the launch of We Are More Than Our Diagnoses. This is a wonderful anthology of people that all have been diagnosed with something, and they said, that's not who we are. And here, let me show you how. And as we end today, I would like to share with you the beautiful song, the music created by Aaron Gibson, the words by Crystal Bay. This is a promotion uh, and there's merchandise for the book We Are More Than Our Diagnoses. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern is the live, and you'll be able to get the book. Nick usually lets it go at a very reasonable price. And then once you get it, please read a couple of stories and go review. I'm going to leave you today with that beautiful scenario of this wonderful book, and I invite you all to be there tomorrow. And let us give Nick a great hand here. Thank you so much for sharing with us your food and everything about you. And with that, I'm going to play this beautiful promotion. We are more than our diagnoses. Yes, ma'am.
I just, I'm sorry, I know we're over time. I just want to say thank you to everyone in the audience. I do see you. I'm going to go back and answer the questions. And I see two people that I really, really want to thank out there.
Please
Um,
go right ahead.
I see Richie Lombard who popped in, and he was from way back in the days with me with my elevators when I started this, and it means a lot to see you here. I want to send the biggest love and thank you to Jason Forhan. Um, Jason has lifted me up in ways that people will never know. He's a very quiet, understated gentleman, but um, I just want him to know how much he means to me. Thank you. Sorry.
Ah, wonderful. And we love you so much. And let's all enjoy this. Please support Nick and her launch tomorrow and all the people that are the 16 people that are writing in this. And it's astounding. These stories are astounding. I've listened to some of the authors talking about it. So I'm so glad that you were here. And here we go.
They gave it a name in a cold white room, spoken whispers like a spell my doom. But I've got a soul that can't diagnose. I've walked through fire and I'm still close to everything I'm meant to be, not just what they see. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm not their doubt. I've got a voice and I'm gonna shout. I've got dreams that won't be tamed, I've got joy they can't explain. So don't you write my story yet. I'm more than limits and regret. I'm still rising year by year. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm still here. Some days hurt, some days shine, but I've made peace with this heart of mine. I've got cracks, but they let light in. That's where the strength begins. No shame in being real, that's how I heal. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm not their doubt. I've got a voice and I'm gonna shout. I've got dreams that won't be tamed. I've got joy they can't explain. So don't you write my story yet. I'm more than limits and regret. I'm still rising year by year. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm still here. Might walk a little slower, but my heart beats just as loud. Might fall and get back up again, but I wear that proud. Cause brave looks different on everyone, and I'm proud of who I've become. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm more than pain, more than letters next to my name. I've got fire, I've got grace, I've got hope you can't erase. So don't you tell me who I am, I'm writing that with my own hand. I'm still singing loud and clear. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. And I'm not my diagnosis.
Thank you. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you, my friend, for being here. Everybody, see you tomorrow for the launch. Thank you, Nick, for sharing such a sweet side of you. And we'll see you next week with a new guest. And Nick will be here too. She's always in support. She just may not be on stage the whole time.
Always be in the audience. I won't be anywhere else.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
so much love and peace to everyone.
Yes, thank you. Great week, everybody.